So the time has come for me to pick my England squad for the Six Nations and the starting team I go for. And to make it more fun, let's try and predict Borthwick's squad and his starting team and compare the two, and you can tell me which you prefer. Now, I've been obsessively watching the Premiership, as you know, doing all the big reports on each round of the Premiership, so I feel I've watched all these players as much as I can. I'm sure I'm going to make some poor decisions, some good decisions. Of course, it's all subjective, so let me know what you think of all these decisions. It's good fun, so don't get too upset if I don't pick the player you want, but it's a really good debate. Now, one big thing going with Borthwick's squad is, of course, he's picked, I think it's 17 players in this hybrid contract status, if you like. So I'd be amazed if he didn't pick all of those guys. So I'm going to say he does pick all of those guys, although some I think are a little bit questionable. Giving Tom Curry a hybrid contract, his hip isn't the best. They don't play him all the time at Sale Sharks. That's a bit of a tricky one. Other players you might say aren't in top form. No, we've got Henry Slade, who's been playing at 10 for pretty much the whole season for Exeter. So that's a little bit of a fly in the ointment. But I'm pretty sure he's going to pick all of these guys in his squad. So let's slot those guys straight in. I'm going to go comparing position by position, and I'm not going to talk about all the other players that didn't make it because I've talked about them a lot in other videos, so it's going to be pretty much straight selection. So let's get stuck into this squad. 36 players to pick, starting at loosehead prop. I think Borthwick will go Genge, Baxter, Apoko Fajor. Genge is nailed on. He's a hybrid contract guy anyway. Baxter's form has dipped, no doubt at all, but Borthwick does stick with players who have performed for him in the past. He did in the summer in New Zealand, so I think he'll do the same. It's a tricky one. Apoko Fajor, they played him at loosehead for England last time, although he's been playing exclusively at tight head for Sale. But I think again they'll go for consistency, picking him at loosehead. For me, I would pick Genge. I think he's been in good form for Bristol. Can he dominate an international game? Maybe hasn't done it for a while, so a bit of a challenge there, but I think he is one of your best guys there. I'd go slightly different though. I'd go for some more form guys. Beno Urbano as the big scrummaging loosehead, and Bevan Rod, the guy around the park who's been improving his scrummaging, played really well for Sale consistently. So very different lineups there. Who would you go for? Then at hooker, I think Borthwick will go with his consistency. I do not see him changing from Theo Dan, Jamie George, the captain, and Luke Cowan-Dickey. All these guys have been playing very well. They've got good form, but I would say if you're the international coach, you've got to shoot for the stars. You've got to try and maximise the talent in your country, in your player pool, or fail trying. I think Borthwick might stick with the safer team that could do okay, but might just be limited. So I am going to be bolder and make a few more changes and try and give this side a bit of a higher ceiling. So I will go for Theo Dan, who I think has really pushed on this year in the Premiership. Jamie Blamire, he's moving to Leicester from Newcastle, probably going to be a good move for him, but he's still been standing out at Newcastle. They've been struggling, but he's such a standout player. His physicality is great, he's athletic, his throwing looks good. I think he is so ready to make a big impact on the international stage. And then I would include the form hooker, I think, of the Premiership, Gabriel O'Gray. He's a good age now. He's not a youngster anymore. His throwing's great. He's amazing around the park. He is fairly powerful. No, not the biggest, but Blamire's pretty big, so it's not a small hooker lineup. So that's what I go for. Definitely a bit more risky, but trying to give a higher ceiling for these players, get a bit more talent on the pitch. At tight head prop, I'm saying that Borthwick sticks with Dan Cole for now, staying with the stalwart, still churning it out for Leicester, doing fairly well. Stewart as his number one. And I think he might take Trevor Davison. I had a feeling maybe he would go for Fazagbong, but he's got an injury, out for a few months. Hayes is close, I think, as well. If they retired Cole, I think then he does pull Hayes in. For me, I go for Will Stewart. I think he's playing well for Bath. I would have Asher Apoko Fajor at tight head. I think Apoko Fajor is the real deal. He's going to get better and better. Get him in there for experience. Definitely get some caps into him as well. And I think Trevor Davison of Northampton's been playing very well. Good scrummager as well. So a nice solid one there for me. And I would move on Dan Cole. Now in the second row, I think Borthwick might go for 5 of these guys. And I'm making the call that Ollie Chesham does come back fit. He's due to come back any week now, and hopefully he gets a game or so under his belt, and I think he is that good that he comes straight in for me as well. Spoiler there. But Chesham, Itoje, Martin, I think they're nailed on. They're nailed on for me. I'd take Alex Coles, and I think that Borthwick will take Alex Coles, although a little question mark maybe about his physicality. And he may well take a fifth as well, because I can see maybe Chesham or Martin dropping into the back row occasionally to beef it up, to boost those line-out options. So I think he might take Ezekwe, who's been playing well for Saracens, but I would take 4 second rows, and I think Borthwick maybe 5. Then I'd take an extra back row, because I think that is where England's strength is. Who do I think that Borthwick will pick? Well, I think he's going to stick with Chandler Cunningham-South. No, he's been doing fairly well for him, but his form is patchy. He's very powerful, but I'm not quite seeing that all-round performance yet, those skills, that consistency. But, he is dangerous. Now, Tom Curry's got that hybrid contract, so I think he will get in that squad. Then he'll take Ben Earl, I'm sure, and I think he might take Ben Curry and Sam Underhill as the out-and-out sevens. Curry, the 4-man, I think he might go with that. He has taken Curry before as well. And Underhill, even though he hasn't played a lot of games, has shown what he can do in defence. I thought he was very good in the last game for Bath. And I think he might stick with Alex Dombrandt at 8. His form for Harlequins is absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. So I think he's going to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Changes for me, though, quite a few, and you can see straight off the bat there, maybe the clues in the thumbnail. Tom Willis goes as a number 8 and as my captain. Now, I'd written this down before I saw that Lawrence Delalio had gone for the same thing. I think in Rugby Pass today I read that, but believe me or not, I had actually put that down already. So yeah, a captain for the future. He's 25, it's a good age. I think he's a nailed-on starter for me. I'd still take the impact of Cunningham-South. Of course, I'm going to take Ted Hill. I think he is a perfect all-rounder to play number 6. Incredibly quick, great line-out option as well. More polished than Cunningham-South, I would say. Sam Underhill, I think, still has plenty to offer. The biggest hitting, tackling 7 we've got. Ben Earl is your explosive runner. And it's close. Ben Curry's on form, but I see something very special in Henry Pollock. Maybe he doesn't play an awful lot, but I think getting that experience in him now, I think you've got to do it just because he's that good. I was umming and erring. Do you save him to go on tour in the summer to Argentina and USA? No, I think we get him in here if you're good enough, you're old enough, that sort of thing. Like I said, he doesn't have to be exposed too early. You've got 7 back rows there, so plenty of cover. Cunningham-South and Ted Hill as 6s. Underhill, Pollock and Earl can play 7, and then 3 options at 8 as well, with Tom Willis as the captain. Dombrandt doesn't quite make it. There's plenty of other good players that don't quite make it. Barbie's been showing a case for a big ball carrier. Fizzleout's been decent for Exeter. Plenty of good players going on there. But yeah, those are the 7 I would go for. Now, scrum half's fairly tricky, apart from Alex Mitchell, who has made a big difference for Northampton Saints as he's returned from injury. Has that mix of skills and the fast break and the offload as well. I think he's absolutely key for England. But then where do you go? I think Borthwick may well go for Jack Van Portfleet. He's a Leicester boy. He knows him well. He's picked him before. I'm not sure I just quite see that top level in him. I'd be happy for him to prove me wrong. He's got a decent all-round game, but I don't know if he's, high enough level in any particular area, but he may well get in. Ben Spencer, I think, gets in as well. That experience, that kicking game that England may well go for, now that we know that kick to contest is even more of a weapon. So I'd go similar with Mitchell and Spencer, but I'd take a running 9 as well in Will Porter. It's a really close one. There's a few guys you could go for. Rafi Quirk was making a late charge. I think, again, he's got something special about him. Randall's really quick and gets it going, but again, physically, kicking-wise, not sure. So I'm going to go with Mitchell, Spencer and Porter. 3 rather different scrum halves as well, depending what sort of game you've got. That's quite good to have that versatility. Then a big call at fly half. I think that Borthwick will take Ford, Smith and Smith. Marcus and Finn Smith, of course, they're all hybrid contracts, so they're going to go if they're fit, and I think everyone will be fit. I think George Ford maybe had a bit of a tweak or something, but he should be okay. But I would cap Fergus Burke, and I say cap, is it cynical? I don't know, but he's a good player. I've talked about it before. He's got a good all-round game, attack, defence, maybe not goal kicking. You might have to get someone else to do that, but we need some depth at fly half. If one or two of these fly halves get injured, who do you go for? I'm not sure. I think Burke would be my fourth choice. So leave Ford alone. We know what he can do. And let's cap Burke. Like I said, a bit cynical, but he wants to play international rugby. And if a side like Scotland come calling, I think he'll go. So I would get him in that squad for that reason, but also he's playing pretty well as well. Then to the centre, and it's tricky. It is a weak area. Is he going to stick with Henry Slade? Well, he's hybrid contract, even though he's been playing 10 for Exeter, and I've said in the past, he kind of is a 10. That's where he started his career. He played there for the under-20s for England. I think they even won the World Cup for the under-20s with him at 10. Let me know if I got that one wrong, but that's what I remember. So Lawrence and Slade as the hybrid contract guys, they're in. Who else? Maybe he'll take Dingwall as a reliable 12 who can play 13 as well. Oscar Beard's been in good form. He's been in the squad, as has Lazowski, so maybe he'll stick with those guys. But it's a tricky one on the prediction. For me, I'd take 4, not 5, because Tommy Freeman, I think I would like to see playing centre at some point. He doesn't play there enough for Northampton, but I think we do need to see it. So who are my centres? I would go for Lawrence as a 12/13, Luke Northmore as another 12, Max Ajomo as another 12, and Oscar Beard at 13. So it's a complete reboot, really, apart from Lawrence maybe. But yeah, I think we need to find a bit more in the centres, have some more threat, because we're well off the other countries with our threat if we play the likes of Slade in that midfield. It could work with the Jomo and Lawrence. They're club players together. I think Northmore's shown he's one of the best 12s around at the moment with an all-round game. And if you want to play that blitz defence, I am pretty sure that Oscar Beard is quite a lot better at doing it than Henry Slade. So big calls. I've left some guys there behind. I've been liking Will Butt, but maybe he hasn't quite kicked on. There's other players there. Seb Atkinson's a good ball handler. We've got Ollie Hartley, hasn't quite kicked on for Saracens. Dan Kelly's got a cap, and again, good at distributing. Other guys there to be looked at. Tom Litchfield's been going okay for Northampton. So a bit of a toss in the air, but those are the 4 I've come with. Let me know who you'd go with. Borthwick's team, if that's what it is, or my centres. A bit of a risk, but again, we need to shoot for those stars or fail trying. And then finally into the back 3, and there's been some injuries, which is a real shame. Faye Waboso would definitely have been in the squad, as would Furbank, I'm sure, as a hybrid contract guy. Maybe his form dropped off a bit, but he'd be in the squad and he would have been in mine as well, both of those guys. But they are out, so that's a problem. Who comes in? Well, Tommy Freeman's the other hybrid contract guy, so I think he'll be in. A second fullback. Is he going to play Marcus Smith? Maybe in game, but he'll want another fullback in there. So I think Elliot Daly comes in as the second fullback for Freddie Stewart. Going back to what he knows, again, Daly's playing well. I don't think, he's really got it anymore for that top level, but he may well go there. I think he'll stick with Slightholme, although his hamstring seems to be an issue, but for now I'm saying he's going to be fit. And Tom Roebuck as well, playing very well, big, strong, great in the air. If they're going to play a big kicking game, which they might at times, then I think he goes. So that's 5 there. And with one less centre, I can have 6 back 3. So yes for Freeman, although he's been playing okay. He hasn't really been having that massive impact in the Premiership, I'd say, compared to some of the others, ball in hand, but very versatile as well. Like I said, covering 13. Slightholme, if he's fit, alongside Caden Murley, those 2 quick guys. And if Slightholme's carrying an injury for the first round or 2, then I think Murley is the same sort of player. Roebuck I agree with, but then a change at 15. My 2 specialist 15s, George Hendy and Joe Carpenter. George Hendy, he's special. He makes things happen. He makes tries from nothing. I think he's got a good covered tackle on him as well. He's got some height, good jump in the air. Let's get him in there. I think he has that high ceiling. The best all-round game, now that Furbank has gone, I think goes to Joe Carpenter. And yes, in-game, I can absolutely see Marcus Smith playing there as well. Now, at this point, I'll just mention my ongoing discount code for manual testosterone testing kits. If you want to get 45% off your home test kit, then use that code up there, or there's a direct link in the description below. That would be awesome. But let's get straight into those teams. How do they differ? Let's slap up the 2 packs. Ellis Genge, I think, starts for me and Borthwick. George is going to start at captain. I'm going to go with the pace of Theo Dan, the power, a little bit more risky, but again, both Will Stewart. Maritoje, Ollie Chesham, I think are the best pairing, although I'd quite like to see Chesham and George Martin together at some point to see how that goes. I think it's come to the time where Itoje doesn't have to play, doesn't have to start. Back rows are different. I think he may well stick with Cunningham South, stick with Curry, that physicality there, and Ben Earl at 8. But for me, Earl, he's dropped off a little bit. His attacking is still excellent. He can come and go into games. But yeah, my captain, Tom Willis, will start at 8. My 7, I think, is Sam Underhill, that heavy-hitting guy. And Ted Hill, the best all-round 6 I think we've got. So quite a big difference there. At 9, Alex Mitchell all-round. And Marcus Smith all-round as well. Tricky one. Very nearly started Finn Smith. But I think, yes, here a bit of continuity is good. And indeed, the headline in the rugby paper says, stick with Marcus Smith, he's England's best. But, best is a bit of a subjective term because it depends what they're the best at. Marcus Smith is the best running counter-attacker 10. Finn Smith is the best at taking the ball to the line, the little dab kick. So it depends what you want. But I'm sticking with Smith for now. But centre's very different. I think he might go for Slade and Lawrence again. They may rotate, of course, depending on attack or defence. But I think Luke Northmore's a slightly better player. Let's see a bit more threat in there. I haven't got a problem with Henry Slade's skills, but physically, I don't think he's got it. So Northmore and Lawrence for me to start with. On the wings, Slightholme and Tom Roebuck for me. I'm pretty sure he'll stay with Tommy Freeman, but he just doesn't look as dangerous as Roebuck. And Roebuck's great in the air as well. So I think Freeman drops to the bench for me, covering a lot of positions. And at fullback, I've gone for another big call. I've gone for the talent. I've gone for George Hendy. I think he's special. Let's get him caps. That's how you find out if these players are any good. Give them a run of games. Now, I'm pretty sure Borthwick will start with Freddie Stewart, who's in good form, but I can't pick him. I've explained it before. He's not agile enough. He's not quick enough off the mark. And in defence, he will be a liability one-on-one or cover tackling. So I just can't do it, even though I appreciate he is playing well as well as he can do. Then for me on the bench, I'm going Jamie Blamire. Again, I think this guy could be special. Bevan Rod and Apoko Fajor to come on. I think for Borthwick, he'll stick with Theo Dan. I think he will play Apoko Fajor, as he will see him as an up-and-coming prop, but at loose head. And I think he might stick with Dan Carr as the reliable, if not spectacular, tight head replacement. George Martin, both our second row replacements. For me, Ben Earl comes off the bench and explodes off the bench onto a retiring team. I can really see that working. He'll probably stick with Alex Dombrandt. They could go for a 6-2 split, maybe. Sam Underhill could come onto the bench, maybe, for Borthwick's team. Maybe Underhill will start instead of Curry, and Tom Curry will be on the bench. Replacement halfbacks for Borthwick, I think, will be Ben Spencer and George Ford. For me, they'll be Spencer and Finn Smith. Finn Smith has to play. He's so good. I wonder if Borthwick will take the plunge, but if you're taking Ford, I think he sticks with him, especially it's away to Ireland the first game. I think he will be risk adverse. I'm going to go for it because I think Finn Smith is good enough. And then my replacement, Tommy Freeman, a 13 wing and fullback actually, and Tom Roebuck's been a replacement for Borthwick before, so I think he'll stick. So there we go. Those are my squads. Those are the teams. Let me know what you think of what I think Borthwick's is going to be. Do you agree? What do you predict? And what about my team? I've made some bold calls there, maybe a bit rash, or maybe it is the way to go, to look a bit towards the future and try and strive for a special team, not just a solid team. Anyway, thanks for all the views. Pop those comments below, and I'll catch you next time.